Hello and welcome to the Women in Motorsports. Joe Santiago here, along with Ben Schneider from Ben Schneider's YouTube channel. A big thank you to our Patreon subscribers, calling the show Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Thank you so much for investing in the Grid Network each and every month, helping us pay the bills, stay on the air, and try to get to the track more frequently. That's the big goal for 2024. You can help make that possible by clicking to the link to our Patreon. And of course, you could buy me a coffee, buy a cup of coffee for anyone on the Grid Network team. And you may not be able to do the YouTube super chat if you're not watching us live on the air, but you can hit the thanks button at the bottom of the video, show your support for all of us here at the Grid Network. And Ben, gotta start, I think, with some of the big news that came out this past weekend. Jessica Hawkins shared driving duties with Felipe Drogovic. She drove the AMR 21, which raced in 2021 with Sebastian Vettel, Lance Stroll behind the wheel. It was 2021 when Jessica became the driving ambassador for Aston Martin. At the time, she was racing in the W Series with Racing X. She competed in all 3 seasons in the W Series, but one of the big things we saw, her best finish in Miami, second place in 2022, which unfortunately was the last year for the W Series. Now, this is very significant because it's the first time since 2018 when we saw Tatiana Calderon in Mexico drive a Formula One car. Aston Martin, they've said Jessica will be part of the team in 2024. And we know one of the big things, 2024 F1 Academy, each F1 team will enter one driver. So seeing how Aston Martin has had Jessica Hawkins as ambassador, should other F1 teams start to follow suit as we approach 2024?
Absolutely. I think it'd be great for everybody involved, not just with F1 Academy, but also the Formula One teams themselves. And we've seen Williams do this with Jamie Chadwick, obviously Alfa Romeo Sauber with Tatiana Calderon getting in the car to test a few years ago as well. It was great to see the news this week that I think Jessica Hawkins got, 26 laps or so in that Aston Martin car. So, it's unfortunate that it took 5 years for somebody to follow in Calderon's footsteps there and get a woman behind the wheel of a modern, contemporary Formula One racing vehicle. But Aston Martin, kudos to them. They got the job done. And Jessica, from what I understand, did a solid job with her test lap. So that's, you can't ask for much more than that. And I hope other Formula One teams take note and also work on providing some similar opportunities in 2024 and beyond.
Now, of course, 2024 F1 Academy, each team having a driver there. Jessica Hawkins, a lot of people speculate, well, that could be the easy switchover. She raced in the W Series. But here's the big thing. W Series was for Tattoos Formula 3 cars. F1 Academy, they're Tattoos Formula 4 cars, about 90 horsepower less than the W Series cars. Now, we've seen some of the W Series drivers gone from W Series to F1 Academy. Would F1 Academy be the next step for Jessica Hawkins' career?
Joe, I'm not sure. From what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I always felt like the mission of F1 Academy was to give younger female drivers an introduction into single-seaters. Jessica Hawkins is 28 years old. She's going to be 29 next year. She would easily be the oldest driver if you take all the drivers from F1 Academy this season. She would be the oldest driver on the grid if she were in F1 Academy. So I don't know that that is necessarily the ideal next step for her. I think maybe something like a Formula 3 car or regional European single-seater series, that might be a little bit more ideal. But if none of those opportunities come about, as you mentioned, all the F1 teams will be directly affiliated with F1 Academy next year in an even greater way than they've been this year. I think it would be a good opportunity for her as a secondary opportunity if none of those chances come to fruition for her. But again, with what F1 Academy was originally designed as, I mean, you've got drivers as young as teenagers and in their early 20s racing in that series. I feel like at this point in Hawkins' career, it might be better for her to try to find something else first and have F1 Academy as a kind of a safety net option, if you will.
Yes, that's the key. It's for younger drivers to get that introduction into single-seaters. Jessica Hawkins, at her stage of the career, it on paper looks like it makes sense. You're the driving ambassador for the team. You have raced in the W Series. This will be the great intro to get in there. But then let's be honest too. Will it really help move up the ladder to Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1? That's the purpose of the F1 Academy. So I do have to agree with you. I feel like this is a part where on paper it looks like this could be a great move for her, but at the same time, career-wise, is there really that much time? We know even drivers in the United States have talked about once they're 26, oh, they might be too old for F1. Drivers getting younger and younger by the day, entering Formula One. Very competitive field. And I feel F1 Academy just as competitive as it's going to be next year when you're going to have now the F1 teams having a direct link to the drivers there. I think that's going to be a very different change in the paddock atmosphere from this year. Now, unfortunately, while most people are celebrating about what Jessica Hawkins did in Hungary, there was a disturbing and troublesome posts we were seeing essentially responding. Females of motorsports highlighted some of the negative and simply put it, misogynistic comments from stereotyping female drivers shouldn't be in motorsports, don't even belong behind the wheel. Some people even said this, quote, ruin F1 or Aston Martin's reputation. Just stupid claims. Unfortunately, we've seen this kind of behavior, Ben, when we talked about Bubba Wallace. We know there's a lot of people there. Him being the only black driver creates a lightning rod of negative comments. And now here we are, Jessica Hawkins, complete laps in an F1 car in a test session. And we have this kind of stupid comments coming out. How ridiculous is this notion that Formula One is only for men? And do you believe the FIA and F1 needs to step in?
Well, I want to be clear. I think this is a very loud minority. A lot of the comments that I've seen, and credit where it's due to these fans that saw this news and were genuinely excited for it. I think there was a lot of that too, and we should be celebrating that. But at the same time, it is worth highlighting some of the negative comments that we saw because I think some people don't recognize that this is still a problem. It's 2023. There's no place for it in society, quite frankly. And yet there are still people that want to go back to the days of the 50s, 60s, and early 70s where women were not even allowed to set foot in Gasoline Alley at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So when you consider that that's the past, and now here we are in the present day, and we have Jessica Hawkins testing a contemporary F1 car, and you have drivers like Danica Patrick who have had tremendous success, drivers like Haley Deegan and Tony Breidinger trying to follow in her footsteps and work their way up through the NASCAR ranks, and Catherine Legg returning to the Indianapolis 500 this year as a driver. We have come a very long way, and it's worth celebrating that. But at the same time, there is still a long way to go to convince some of these fans that, it's not like that. We can still have a woman drive a Formula One car. We can have a woman involved, multiple women involved in the world of motorsports. And a lot of them have proven already that they can get the job done and drive a car just as well as a man can. The car does not know the gender of its driver. And that's the beauty of this sport. It's one of the very few sports out there that are not segregated with men and women competing separately. Men and women can compete on the same racetrack in the same race cars. And we have a long way to go still, unfortunately, to convince some of these fans that that's the case.
Long way to go, and some of these people, I even wondered, are they really fans? Is there just something else where this just does not seem like they get the value of motorsports where regardless of gender, you could go out there and win. We've seen Danica Patrick win in Japan in IndyCar with Andretti Autosports. We've seen drivers can't compete, go out there and win. These claims are just ridiculous, and I just think it's really unfortunate. You do bring up a really good point. It's a loud minority. The majority of fans supportive of this, especially, F1. We know all the teams, they're going to be vested in F1 Academy next year with a driver representing essentially their team. I think that minority is going to hopefully just go away. We don't need them in this sport. Or they start to change their tune and realize this is good for the sport. It's just going to add more value. And of course, F1 Academy, a few weeks away at Circuits of America, and afterwards, all the races will be televised. So we'll be previewing the upcoming F1 Academy race at Circuits of America, October 21st and 22nd in 2024. We're looking forward to presenting more coverage of F1 Academy. This year has been a challenge without televised coverage of the races.
Joe, if I could just follow up with one more thing here. I want to really drive the point home because this was just a test session. This wasn't like, oh, we're announcing Jessica Hawkins is going to take Lance Stroll's seat in the 2024 Formula One season. I mean, if that had been the announcement, then I understand. Well, let's have that discussion. Is Jessica Hawkins ready? Does she have the super license points? Does she have the credentials? She drove 20-something laps in a test session, and that's all she did. And credit to her for doing that job well, and credit to Aston Martin for giving her that opportunity. But the fact that that's enough to set some of these fans off just drives me absolutely insane. And you're absolutely right. I echo everything that you said as well. We still have a ways to go to convince some of these fans, unfortunately, that this is a place where women should be welcomed and those opportunities should be celebrated.
Should be celebrated. Welcome to motorsports, and of course, the talking occurs on the racetrack when they drop the green flag. Best driver, best cars, and sometimes luck will play out who wins. But as the thing about motorsports, anybody could go out there, put in time, effort, and they could succeed. Now, one driver looking for some potential opportunities in 2024, Amber Balcaen. She was in Delaware for the Fall Brawl NASCAR Pinty Series race on September 25th. This was the final race at the Pinty Series in 2023, the NASCAR Canadian-based series. Now, Amber completed about half of the race before mechanical issues took her out with 124 laps remaining out of 250 laps. She finished 17th out of 22 cars in the field, and Amber is from Canada. Now, Ben, one of the big things, Amber had 2 Canadian sponsors that helped make this ride possible. We know sponsorship is a challenge for drivers, especially in the lower levels, because, everyone's looking at the higher levels. Could we potentially see Amber shift from racing in the United States, where she's done most of her racing, to potentially in Canada?
Absolutely, and you bring up a good point, Joe. It's kind of like a homecoming for her because she is originally from Canada, even though she's done a lot of racing in the ARCA Menard series and in the United States for the last several years. But I always have to do a double take when I see Delaware on the NASCAR Pinty schedule, because I'm from the state Delaware here in the U.S. Obviously, that's Delaware Speedway in Ontario, Canada. But regardless, still great to see Amber Balcaen back out on the track. I know she didn't get to do as many ARCA races this year as she was hoping. But I think absolutely, if there's an opportunity out there for her in the Pinty series to go back to Canada to race in a NASCAR sanctioned series and a highly respected and highly regarded NASCAR sanctioned series up north, I think she should welcome that opportunity and run and take it in 2024 should that come her way.
Yeah, the opportunity, if a full-time ride in the Pinty series was to come up, the sponsorship level there, definitely I think that would be a great win for her and her career. And of course, this series, Ben, it's had some recognizable names. This isn't just a lot of essentially startup racers. We're talking about Alex Tagliani, the former kart driver. He won in Toronto. Ken Schrader went up there to race in the Freshstone Dirt Classic. Pole got the win. Plus, we even see drivers like Alex LeBay come from the Pinty series to the Xfinity series. Considering the competition level we have here, do you believe this is a series on par with ARCA and could be a good route to get from ARCA or even trucks for Ambers and the others?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. If you ask Canadians, I'm sure they're going to tell you it's a level above ARCA and the truck series. I know they're very proud of the series that they have up there, and I think Dave Moody was actually interviewing Trayton Lapsovich, who just won the championship in the series this year, and Trayton was saying, look, we have a very strong field of drivers here, and we're proud of what we've built with this series. And I think fans both in Canada and the United States are starting to take notice and starting to recognize that. So, again, you asked the question. The competition that we have here in ARCA, the competition we have here in trucks, I think is very strong as well, but it's definitely equally as strong at minimum, if not even a little bit stronger. I must confess, we don't follow the Pinty series as closely for the Grid Live Encore show, so I don't feel like I can speak to it quite as well as somebody who does. But from everything that I have heard and everything that I've seen from the races that I have gotten to watch this year, you have some incredible racing and some incredible talent up there that deserves, I think, a little bit more recognition and respect and coverage here in the United States. And, absolutely. I think, again, like I said, any driver that has such an opportunity, if their ARCA doors kind of close for them, if they want to go up north to the Pinty series, I think it's a great series and great avenue for them to continue their racing careers. And Amber Balcaen would certainly be a driver that I would love to see have some more opportunities up there next year.
Definitely. I think this is great opportunity for her. And then just having that exposure of, okay, come here, race in the Xfinity Series like Oscar Bay. The Truck Series could be a really good fit as well too. Just getting that track time, because we know track time is a big thing. If they had more U.S. televised coverage of the Pinty Series, definitely there will be something that will be easier to watch. And I think a lot of fans will see the talented drivers they have in this field and the competition, some of the best out there. Now, Ben, along with the Pinty Series, another series was a lot of competition, and closing down the championship, the National Hot Rod Association.
That's right, Joe. NHRA coming down to their final 4 events of the year, and their championship battle still has a few drivers mathematically in the hunt. Let's talk about Leah Pruitt in top fuel. She is 4th currently, 76 points behind. The defending champion Brittany Force is 106 behind. So, Joe, we look at each of these 2 drivers. Does it seem like Leah Pruitt's having a better season compared to 2022? And Brittany Force, kind of a surprise, still winless. Can you believe that?
If someone had told me Brittany Force was going to be winless this year, I would have not believed it, because she started off very fast, qualifying record, looking really good after getting the championship last year. The consistency, though, she has it. It's just eluding her that first win of this year. Once she gets that, that would be a huge confidence boost. But overall, I feel this team, they have to be pretty happy with what they're doing so far. Of course, they would love to be in the top 2 like they were last year, but we still have time to go out there, try to get a win, and contend for the championship. For Leah Pruitt, to get a win earlier this year, have a great start to the season, and just stay up there ahead of Brittany Force in the championship standings, I think she has to feel pretty good of everything going on. This is definitely a year where they can say, okay, we rebounded from 2022. This is something to be proud of. Let's build onto it for 2024. With the sponsorships she has, the funding, that team, I think 2024 could be a big year for Leah Pruitt. But of course, Brittany Force racing team owned by John Force, that's always going to be one of the teams to beat. But top fuel competition there is very fierce overall.
And moving over to funny car, Alexis DeJoria is 168 points behind in that championship battle, also winless. Erica Enders, on the other hand, has 2 wins, but a more quiet season compared to her season last year, 2nd in pro stock points in 2022. Camry Caruso, 128 behind the leader. So, Joe, of these 3 drivers, who has been the biggest surprise to you in 2023?
The biggest surprise, I have to say, right now is Erica Enders. She had a horrible start to the season. It looked like this was just going to be a really rough year for her, that team. But somehow they've been pulling it off to get a couple wins, and now they are 2nd in the points when it matters the most towards the end of the season. Only 4 points behind. I see potential for her to go out there and still get that championship. That'll be a huge boost considering where that team was at the beginning of the season, where at one point they failed to qualify for a race. National Hot Rod Association, you don't have provisionals. You're not locked in through a charter system. It is the fastest cars. That race, we go race, doesn't matter you're the defending champion. You go home. No points scored at all. Where over 100 points for the winner, 30 points for last place, 0 points, big disadvantage. So she's been a big surprise. Very funny to say that considering we're talking about she only has 2 wins this year, but we're so used to seeing her get multiple wins. Camry Caruso, great to see her get her first win of the year very early on in the season. Still hanging around there in the championship hunt still. I think it's going to be a little hard for her, especially the competition from Erica Enders. I think it's going to be tough. And Alexis DeJoria, it's been interesting. She hasn't won a race. She did win the Mission Chip Challenge, but that's not full points. So really, I think she's just having an average season. But considering she started this season with no sponsorship from Rocket leaving, just like what happened with Tatiana Calderon in IndyCar, I think she has done a great effort when it comes to rebounding. And overall, I think it's going to be really exciting to see how these last few races go.
Well, looking ahead at their schedule, the NHRA Midwest Nationals is this weekend, and then 3 more races to go to finish off 2023.
And of course, we encourage everyone, be sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next time we go on the air. And of course, if you're watching us later after Friday, you could comment with your question. We'll love to respond back. And be sure to follow us on social media, TikTok, Twitter, now X, Instagram, and Facebook. Big thank you to our Patreon subscribers, Concho, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in us each and every month. Click on the link in the video description to invest in us. And of course, buy me a coffee or YouTube super chat. You could even send funds to a particular member of the Grid Network team. They'll thank you on the air. They'll appreciate it because we're all doing this for you. We all love motorsports together and bring you great coverage throughout the year.
And Joe, just real quick, I think I misspoke. Erica Enders, I believe, is second in Pro Stock points this year. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, saw the past season of the script and went back to 22, but my mistake there. Second in Pro Stock points in 23 for Erica Enders.
And she's still trying to get number one, so she still has time to that. Of course, we don't want to forget this Saturday, tomorrow, Grid Life pre-race. We're going to talk about all the upcoming races, including NASCAR Talladega. We're going to see who's number one there. Should be a crazy one. MotoGP, that championship's far from over. World Rally Championship. Sunday, we're going to recap it all, see how all the races went. And then Monday, Grid Live Encore. Ben, Brandon, they'll be on the air. Talladega, of course, is going to be one of those races we're going to be talking about. Big race weekend. Then Wednesday, Grid Tonight. Kobe, Matthew, everyone there. They're going to be on there to talk about the latest news, including, of course, the big news that came out earlier this week. Brickyard 400 is back. Before we go off there, any quick words about the big news of the Brickyard returning?
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of fans were not too happy with the direction of NASCAR's relationship with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that dates all the way back to when we last had the Brickyard 400 on the schedule. But I think having the event on hiatus for a few years and seeing what the road course has produced, I think it's time to bring the event back. And I think the fans, I certainly hope the fans put their money where their mouths have been the last few years and show up to the track and watch it on television, because this is one of the 4 crown jewels of the NASCAR Cup Series, and it's great to see that it's back on the schedule.
Very great to see it back in the schedule. Like you said, get good fan turnout. I think with this car, we should get some better racing. But the big thing is ticket sales are going to really dictate the future of this race. So if you're one of the fans saying, bring back the Brickyard, start getting online, looking to getting those seats. Because we're going to talk more about that in this upcoming week. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.